To prepare your Chapter 7 bankruptcy online, just go to quickfile.net right here. And then you click, you go over here and click Sign In. And then right here where it says New User, you just make up a username. And a password. Confirm your password. And enter an email address. And click Submit. That'll take you right here. It says New Account Created for John Doe 450. And you just fill in your forms online. And it's pretty easy stuff to do. You don't need an attorney to do this. You don't have to go to law school or anything to fill this out. It's pretty, relatively simple stuff. If you have any problems filling it out, you could call your smart cousin to help you. But it's pretty easy stuff, and we've got a lot of instructions on here to show you and guide you. So the first thing, it'll ask you for your court district. It's got every court district in the country on here. And if you're not sure what your court district is, you can click here, and you just choose your state here, and you find your county. And so your court district is based on what county you live in. So once you find your court district, you just fill it in here, select it here. I'm going to choose Select Central District, California. And then you notice here these little question marks. If you just touch those with your mouse, those are little instructional things throughout that will kind of help you fill in this information, kind of guide you as little instructional pop-ups. So I'm going to put in the debtor's name, John David Doe. I'm not going to fill in the whole thing. I'm just going to kind of show you how to do this, what's entailed in doing your bankruptcy. We have detailed information and videos after you sign up that'll guide you in great detail. So here it'll ask you your marital status. Are you married or not married? If you check married, it'll ask you, do you want to file bankruptcy with your spouse jointly? If you put yes, it'll ask you for your spouse's name. So I'm going to put no. So here he's married. And not filing jointly. So he's filing on his own, which you can. It'll tell you all about it here. And then next, how do you want to pay the court filing fee? Every bankruptcy court in the country charges a $335 court filing fee for a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. You can pay that to the court in full at the time of filing, or you can apply to pay it in monthly installments. Most courts will split it up into maximum of 4 monthly payments. They'll still file your bankruptcy now. It'll be effective immediately, and you just send in a payment to the court each month until you get it paid off. Just make sure you don't miss a payment, otherwise the court will dismiss your bankruptcy. The third option is to apply for a waiver of the filing fee. If your income is low, if your income is not higher than 150% of the federal poverty level for your family size, then you can apply to have the court filing fee waived, and the court may waive that fee for you altogether. And if you want to know if you qualify for a waiver, just click that link right there, and it'll tell you. Have you filed bankruptcy previously within the last 8 years? Yes or no? If so, you put your information here. You could have had a previous Chapter 7 that was dismissed for whatever reason. You didn't show up to your meeting, or could have been a previous Chapter 13. But if so, you list it there. If not, you just leave it no. Do you rent your residence? Yes or no? Are you a sole proprietor of any full-time or part-time business? And it'll tell you all about it right there. And you just fill this information in. What kind of debts do you have? Consumer or business debts? It'll copy your name and information here. Have you used any other names in the last 8 years? Yes or no? If you have, then you just put your previous names there, or your also known as names or maiden names. What's your social security number? Your address where you physically reside. And if you have a different mailing address that you want to use, just check here, right here, and you can use a different mailing address, and the court will mail you to your whatever mailing address that you specify. Anyone who files bankruptcy after October of 2005 has to complete pre-bankruptcy counseling, unless you are disabled or something like, or incapacitated or something. But most people have to complete the counseling. And very rare do you not have to complete it. So even though you may not have completed the counseling yet, you would check this box, and then before you actually take or mail your forms to the bankruptcy court, before you actually file, you have to complete the counseling. It's required by law before you file the bankruptcy. And you can go right here and open this here, and it has a link here to moneysharp.org. That is the cheapest counseling agency that I'm aware of. It's $10, and that's per couple. So if you're filing a joint bankruptcy, it's $10 covers you and your spouse. There's another link here if you're in Alabama or North Carolina, and there's also more here. So it takes 1 hour. You do it online, and after you do it, they will email you a counseling certificate, and you have to give that to the bankruptcy court when you file, to let them know that you completed that required pre-bankruptcy counseling. Then here you list your contact information here, and then here it'll ask you, would you like us to import your debt information from creditkarma.com? So you could type all your debts in yourself, the name, address, balance, all that, or you could just check this right here, and we'll import all your debts for you from Credit Karma automatically. And then once we do that, then you can also go in and add more debts if you have other debts that are not on your Credit Karma. And your bankruptcy has schedules A through J, various schedules. So Schedule AB is called property. And property consists of anything that you own or have the legal rights to, whether you owe money on it or not, whether it's paid off or you owe money on it. So right here, the first part is real estate. If you own a house, or if you own any kind of real estate, or if you're buying real estate, you just click that box there, and then you just enter the information for your house, your property, the value, kind of estimate the value, and what type of property is it, single family, condominium, whatever, and we'll explain how to do all that. You'll receive a video, detailed video, sample forms, all kind of stuff that will guide you on how to do this. If you have other real estate, you just click this, another one will pop up here. And then the next thing will ask vehicles. If you own a car, truck, or motorcycle, or if you're purchasing one, then you check this box here, and then you just list the information for your car here. The year, make, and model, the estimated mileage, the value, who owns it, debtor 1, debtor 2, or maybe you and someone else that's not filing bankruptcy owns it. And you can keep your car if you want it. If you're buying a car and you want to keep it, you still have to list it. You still have to list the loan, but you can keep it. You can surrender it and wipe out any further liability, or you can keep it and reaffirm it and keep making your payments if you want. But you still have to list it. If you have another vehicle, you can click this and open up another one. You can list about 5 of them on here. And right here, part 3 is personal household items. If you have any household furnishings, furniture, refrigerators, stoves, couches, stuff like that, then you check that. If you have any electronics, TVs, DVD players, computers, printers, cell phones, things of that nature, you check that right here, this box. Clothing, jewelry, if you have any pets, cats, dogs, pigs, horses. And a lot of people wonder, are they going to take my clothes and my dogs and stuff? Your clothes and your dogs are protected. Nobody's going to take them. And unless your dog drives a truck or can write a book, nobody's going to be interested in your dog. Trustees are interested in money, not, pets or used clothes. So right here, these are the things that you just clicked on. So now these are the details. You just go in here and just put the details of your furniture. You just describe them. And here's some examples here: couch, recliner, dining table, just the big stuff, not everything in your house, just the big stuff. You just put the value here, $1,200. And it'll tell you right up here, how to value your property. Basically, a retail replacement value. Some people call it the garage sale value. It's pretty similar. Then electronics, you just put 2 TVs, DVD player, cell phone. $800 or whatever you think it is. Clothing, $200 or whatever. You just kind of estimate the value of your clothes or jewelry. It has, instructional samples here, examples here. Dogs, 2 dogs, $10 or $1 or whatever. Just some value. Right here, financial assets. You see, it's a lot of stuff here, but most of the stuff does not apply to most people. There's probably maybe 4, 5, 6 of these that may apply. So here, do you have a checking account, savings account, stocks, bonds? If you have a 401k or retirement account, you click here. Do you have a security deposit, like an electric deposit? When you open your electric, maybe they have a security deposit that they're holding. All of that is an asset that you own, and you get to keep all this stuff. In most cases, all this stuff you'll keep, but you still have to list it. If you have a rent deposit, just check that box here. If you have a tax refund owed to you that you have not claimed for a previous tax year, you check this box here. And like I said, most of these things, most people don't have. You just leave them blank if they're not applicable. And then you come down here and you just fill the information in. For your bank, you just put like Wells Fargo or whatever the name of your bank is, and the value, how much you have in there. $234. It doesn't have to be exact, but an estimate is how much you'll have in there as of the date that you file bankruptcy. If you want to add another checking account, you can. Just click here. Savings account, you do the same thing. How much you have in there on the date that you file. You can add another savings account here as well, if you have one. 401k, if you have a 401k or some kind of retirement account, you just type in, like here, Fidelity Financial, whoever is holding or managing your 401k, the company. You just list the name of that institution and how much you have in there. You may have, $20,000 in there. And retirement money is exempt under federal law in every state, so you could have like $1 million or more. Nobody can touch that. If it's a qualified retirement account, you get to keep that, but you still have to list it. Security deposits with like say you have a security deposit with your electric company, just put the name of the electric company and how much is the security deposit that they're holding. Not how much your monthly electric is, but the security deposit, if any. If you have a rent deposit, like with your landlord, you just put the name of your landlord or management company, whoever's holding the deposit, and how much it is. $1,500 rent deposit. You get to keep all that stuff. But in most cases, I would say about 98% of cases, you get to keep all your stuff. It's all exempt by law. But you still have to list it there. You just fill it out. Most people don't have this stuff, business-related property. If you do, you just fill it in, or commercial fishing-related stuff. Most people don't have that. So you're done with that. You just fill that in. That's all your assets. The Schedule C is the property that you're going to claim as exempt, and you'll do that on the actual forms. And it's kind of a semi-automated process. It's pretty simple to fill that in. And it'll basically just be all the assets that you just listed. You could copy those, just like clicking a button. It'll copy everything and fill that in. And then you just type in the exemption laws, which will provide to you, that says that you get to keep that property. It's off limits. It's protected from creditors. So Schedule D is claims secured by property. This is basically any creditor that has collateral, like a lien against your house or your car. So this would be like mortgages, automobile loans, or even like furniture. Like if you're buying furniture, the contract usually says that the furniture store, the creditor has a lien or a security interest in the furniture until you finish paying for it, just like a car. So you do own it, but they have a lien on it. And furniture, companies, they can't come in, the creditors, they can't come in and kick your door in and take the collateral, but technically they are secured collateral. So you would list them here. So if you have a mortgage, or if you have an automobile loan or anything like that who has collateral, who has a lien against your house or something, you just fill in the name of the creditor and just list the collateral, like 2003 Ford Mustang or something, or your house, property, whatever. And you just kind of estimate the value and what type of lien it is. It could be a judgment lien. Usually it's an agreement that you made. You agreed to it when you got the mortgage, or you agreed to it when you bought the car. And you have the option. You can, like, say for example, you have a house or a car. You can surrender it and give it back and say, I don't want this house anymore. I don't want this car anymore. And you can surrender it in a couple of months. They cannot repossess it or foreclose on your home while you're in bankruptcy unless they got permission from the bankruptcy court, which may take them a couple of months. But usually you keep driving your car, whether you're paying for it, whether it's past due or not. You can keep it, and eventually you can either retain it and redeem it, your car. That means, let's say for example, the car, you owe $15,000 on the car, but it's only worth $7,000 because of depreciation or damage. So you can actually buy the car. You can pay the lender whatever the car is worth, and the rest of it will be wiped out. The rest of the balance will be wiped out, and they have to give you the title to the car. And there's a company called 722redemption.com who will actually give you the money. They'll loan you the money, not give it to you. They'll loan you the money to do that redemption. They'll basically become your new car lender, but you can save several $1,000s perhaps on your car by doing a redemption. You can redeem just about any type of personal property. Personal property is anything other than real estate. You cannot redeem real estate, but you can redeem equipment and cars and things like that, furniture, stuff like that, by purchasing them for the fair market value, the retail replacement value in most states. Or you can retain and reaffirm, like if you have a house or a car and you just want to keep it and just basically exclude it from the bankruptcy, you still have to list it, you still have to list the debt, and then you just check this box, retain and reaffirm, and basically your creditor will prepare a reaffirmation agreement on a standard form that all courts use, and send it to you for you to sign. And then once it's signed and approved by the bankruptcy court, then your car loan will be excluded, or your mortgage or whatever will be excluded from the bankruptcy, and you just keep making your payments, and it will not be affected at all. And you keep the car or keep the house if you want to. Or you can surrender it and give it back, and you won't owe them anything, whatever your choice is. The next thing is Schedule EF, unsecured claims. And then your unsecured claims, you have two parts, two types. You have priority claims and non-priority claims. So priority claims, let's open this here. Priority claims would be domestic support obligations like past due child support or alimony that you owe, if any. Not your ongoing alimony that you're current on, but your past due arrearages, if any. And then also taxes and other debts owed to the government, like fines. If you have traffic tickets or parking tickets, you cannot discharge those. You cannot get rid of those on a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. You might be able to get rid of all or part of them on a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, fines or anything that's imposed as a penalty that's owed to a government agency, but not on a Chapter 7. And state or federal income taxes can be discharged. They can be eliminated on a Chapter 7 bankruptcy altogether if the tax year is over 3 years old and if you filed a tax return timely for that year. If you didn't file a tax return, then it doesn't matter if they're 8 years old. You can't get rid of them. So if you have taxes that are less than 3 years old or for which you did not file a tax return, those are called priority taxes, and you cannot get rid of that debt. So you list that tax debt here. And if you happen to be driving around and drinking a bottle of vodka and you ran over somebody and caused damage or death while you're intoxicated, you cannot get rid of that debt either, so unfortunately. So those are priority debts that are not dischargeable on a bankruptcy. If you have more, you just click this. Another one will pop up and keep adding more. Most people don't have priority debts. Some of them do. So if not, you just put no. And then you've got Part 2, which is non-priority claims. The claim is the same thing as a debt, basically, in bankruptcy. They call it a claim. How much is it's a claim, a debt that the creditor is claiming that you owe them. So right here, non-priority unsecured claim, let's open this up, is a debt that is not secured by collateral. It's unsecured. Just like if you go to the doctor, the doctor's not going to say, Bob, I'm going to work on your toe, but I need a mortgage on your house. It's unsecured. They're not going to ask you for collateral. Credit cards are most credit cards are unsecured. Sears does have a provision in their contract that says that they retain a lien against durable goods. Durable goods would be like something heavy duty, like a refrigerator or an oven or something like that, a washer and dryer. They have a lien against that technically, according to their credit card agreement. But it's inside your house. They can't really come and get it anyway. So, but as far as clothing and just other credit card purchases that you make, all the other kind of stuff that you normally buy with credit cards, Sears is not going to show up at your meeting and say, give me that shirt, that sweat-stained shirt. We want it because you haven't paid for it. So you get to keep your clothes and stuff like that. All your credit cards are normally unsecured, no collateral, medical bills, personal loans, old telephone bills, utility bills, just about any debt that you could think of would go right here on this section, Part 2, if it's not a priority debt and it's not a secured debt. Overpayments that you owe to the Social Security Department, Social Security Administration, or to the Unemployment Department for overpayments of benefits, you can list those on here. Those can be eliminated on a bankruptcy. Those are not priority debts. Bank overdrafts, court judgments are usually unsecured unless they've been recorded as a lien against your house or something. Court judgments are a debt just like any other debt. They can be wiped out as well in most cases, any money judgment. So basically you just list the name of the creditor, name and address, like Capital One Bank, for example, the last 4 digits of the account number if you know it, or if you don't, leave it blank, and the total claim, how much they're claiming the balance is owed. Whether you agree with it or not, if the creditor is claiming that you owe $6,000, that's the balance on your statement, that's what you list. You can dispute it later if you want, or it may not be necessary, but it doesn't really matter. It's going to be, if you're doing a Chapter 7, it's going to be wiped out anyway. So date incurred, you just list the date that you opened the credit card usually, or the date that you went to the doctor, the date that you incurred that debt. And so basically, who incurred it? Debtor 1, debtor 2, or maybe you and someone else. Who owes the debt? And even student loans have to be listed. Student loans, a lot of people think they're priority debts. They're not priority debts. They're non-dischargeable debts in most cases. You can apply to have a student loan discharged, student loan forgiven, but they're very rare. If you have some kind of substantial, ongoing, or permanent hardship, like a disability or something, you can apply to the bankruptcy court and the judge can discharge that student loan if they want to, but they're very rare. But you still have to list them for informational purposes on your bankruptcy. And separation or divorce obligations, if you got divorced and you agreed in your divorce agreement that you would pay, this credit card debt and you didn't pay it, then that may be non-dischargeable, or it may be non-dischargeable as to your spouse. If you don't pay it, if you file bankruptcy, you may not be able to get rid of that debt between you and your spouse. Or if you borrowed money from your 401k, you can't wipe that out. Things like that. Other than that, whatever, if it's not one of these debts, if it's just like a credit card, you just type in credit card, or medical bill or whatever, just a brief description of what the debt is. And then, you click here, and then you can add another non-priority claim. Then they're all numbered here, creditor number 2, number 3. So you can add as many debts as you want, and you will see that if you wanted us to import your information from Credit Karma, when you log back in, all of your debts will be filled in for you right here, and you can go in and add more if you want to. You click next, and you'll go to Schedule G, Executory Contracts and Unexpired Leases. Let's open that up. An executory contract is, just to give an example, if you have a 1-year contract with your gym, like a health and fitness club contract, a 1 or 2 year contract, or a cell phone contract, a 1 or 2 year contract, that's an executory contract. And you could keep that contract, or you can assume it, or you can choose to reject it and get out of it and wipe it out, and you won't have any further liability. But you still have to list it here. And unexpired leases, like an apartment lease or house lease or an automobile lease, you'd list it here. And you can keep the car, keep making the payments and assume the lease, or not. Or you can turn the car in later and you'll have no further liability on that lease. Schedule 8 is co-debtors. If you have any co-debtors, co-signer, co-debtors, just list them here. If not, you just put no. Schedule I is your income. If you're married, you have to include your spouse's income on your bankruptcy and their employment information, whether they're filing or not. You still have to, unless you're separated. If your wife lives in a different house and you're separated, maybe you haven't seen her since 1942, you don't have to list her income because you probably don't know how much she makes anyway. So you can click this box and exclude your spouse's income. But if you're married and you're not separated, you're required by law to include your spouse's income on your bankruptcy, even though they're not filing. Or if you're filing jointly, you always have to do it. So here if you're employed, you check the employed and put your occupation, mechanic, whatever your employer's name. nobody's going to contact your employer. You may contact them if you have a wage garnishment. You may, nobody's going to tell them you filed bankruptcy except maybe you. If you want to stop a wage garnishment or something, nobody else is going to contact them. It's just for informational purposes. And then here you just estimate your monthly income. Not how much you make, per payday, but for the whole month, you kind of estimate your gross wages or salary commissions. Gross is before your payroll deductions are subtracted. So let's say you make $3,000 in a month, and if you have overtime, you'd estimate it here, and then you calculate it here. You don't really have to hit these calculating buttons because that's just for you. All your data is going to populate into the forms, and it's going to recalculate correctly anyway into our software. Then here's your payroll deductions, and remember it's monthly. So don't list just one pay period. Estimate your monthly payroll deductions, how much they take out for taxes, Social Security, and all that. If you have a mandatory retirement contribution, like if you work for a school district or something, and they, you have no choice, you have to contribute, they take the money out, then that's a mandatory retirement contribution listed here. But most people have voluntary contributions. If you work for a company, they don't make you contribute usually to a 401k. It's voluntary, so you listed here. If you have a 401k loan or something, you listed here how much you pay monthly for that loan, for borrowing that money. Any insurance, medical or dental insurance, you total it all up, listed here. If you pay child support, it's deducted out of your pay, or alimony or something, you'd list it here. Union dues, any other deductions, and if you have other deductions, it'll pop up here and specify what they are, and then you just calculate it if you want to. You don't have to. And then here, you list any other income. If you notice, up above is for wages. So if you're not an employee, you don't. If you're self-employed or retired, you don't list any information up here because you're not an employee. That's not wages. So if you're self-employed, if you're a 1099 worker, if you're an Uber driver or a Lyft driver, or you sell Avon or whatever, and you're independent or 1099 worker, you're not an employee, you list your income right here, and it'll say net. It says net income, from a business or whatever. So that let's say you're an Uber driver, and you make $1,000 a month, but then you have to pay $300 in gas. Then you'd subtract the gas, and you put $700 here. Your net profit, basically your net they're asking for. And then if you have any other income, unemployment compensation, Social Security, pension or retirement, any other income other than your employment income above, you'd list it here. And Social Security, you do have to list it here. There is another form, a means test form that is excluded by law. You do not have to list the Social Security income, but on this form, you do have to list it. You have to list child support, any income that you receive on this form. Even government assistance. If you get food stamps, you have to estimate, how much it is. If you get, even though it's not cash, you have to estimate the value of any non-cash assistance. And that non-cash assistance will be excluded from the fee waiver if you're applying to waive the court filing fee. But you list all your income, you kind of estimate it the best you can, and then you go to the next section here, and then this will usually be filled in already. Do you have any dependents? If you have any dependents, you click yes, and you just fill it in here. No, you don't put the names of your kids. You put son, daughter, whatever the relationship is, and their age, 16 years, 12 years, whatever. Do they live with you? Yes or no? And you just fill them in. And then right here, you'd list your mortgage, your first mortgage payment or rent, either one that you have, if any. If your taxes are included, or if they're not included in your mortgage payment, then you'd list those here, taxes and all that stuff, taxes, insurance and stuff. And then you come down here, you list your utilities, just kind of estimate, how much you spend each month, for electric and gas. Just kind of average it out for the year. And water, sewer, telephone. You don't have to have an attorney to fill this stuff in for you. You can fill it in yourself. Save $1,500 or $2,000. Clothing. How much do you spend each month for clothes and laundry, buying clothes and doing laundry, whatever, for your kids, or dry cleaning. Personal care products and services, that's like, doing your nails, getting haircuts, stuff like that. And you don't want to be extravagant. You want to do stuff that's reasonable. Transportation, that would be, to tell you right here, that does not include your car payment. That's like gasoline, maintenance, oil changes, stuff like that in a month. These are all monthly expenses. And charitable contributions, religious donations, you're allowed up to 15% of your gross income by law that you can list on here and as an allowable expense. And it's actually a continuing expense, so you can't just go out and start, giving money to your church just because you're filing bankruptcy. It has to be something that you've been doing and you're continuing. So, and they could ask for that if you put a lot, like if you put $500 a month for tithing or something, they may ask you to get something from your church to verify that you actually have been doing that you're not just making it up or just started it because of the bankruptcy. And then insurance. If you have life insurance, health insurance, and vehicle car insurance, and it says here that are not already deducted from your pay. If it's not, that are not payroll deductions, like your car insurance, whatever. So you would list those here if they're not already deducted from your payroll. And then car payments, you list your estimated, or actually not your estimated, but your actual car payment and other installment payments, if any. And then down here, this would be like another property. If you have another house that you own or some other, mortgage type, another real estate expenses, usually for another property that you may own. So a lot of this stuff doesn't apply to most people, but you just fill in what does apply. And you do not list on there, you do not list ongoing like credit card debts and stuff, debts that are being wiped out in your bankruptcy, because you're not going to have those anymore. You just list your essential living expenses, food, clothes, all the stuff that you normally need to live in the future. And then the statement of financial affairs is 28 questions, most of which are not relevant to most people. There's probably maybe 4, 5, 6 of these questions are relevant to most people. But you read them all, you go through them and see if they're applicable. What's your marital status? Married, not married? Your previous addresses for the last 3 years, if you haven't lived at your current address for at least 3 years. Right here, did you have any income from employment or from operating a business during this year or the 2 previous calendar years? A lot of people leave this blank because they don't understand it for whatever reason. I don't know. But here it's asking for your year-to-date gross income. Let's say you work at Walmart or some kind of regular job, as an employee. They're asking for your year-to-date from January 1st until you file. It's your year-to-date, which is how much you've made so far this year. Let's say it's April is how much have you made since January. And usually it's on your last pay stub. You can see your year-to-date gross, and gross is your income before payroll deductions. So you just estimate that, and or get it. Try not to estimate anything. If you have to, just look on your pay stub. And use correct numbers. Don't just make stuff up. A lot of people just make it up, and the trustee may make you go back and put the correct stuff. Not the time to be lazy when you're filing bankruptcy. You go and look the information up and put the correct information. And this is how much you made in 2018, like on your W-2. How much did you make? Your gross income. You listed here. And you may have had wages, and you may have had a business too on the side. Like say you worked at Walmart as an employee, and you also were a part-time Uber driver or Lyft driver or something like that. So you would include your gross business income and your gross wages, combine them and put the total amount. And the bankruptcy trustee knows that if you're listing your gross business income, they know that's not your net. They know that you have business expenses. They're aware that that's your gross, not your net. They know that you didn't get to keep all that. It's not all profit. So they're aware of that. And then you also list 2017, like your previous, the last 2 years and the current year to date. And if you're filing with your spouse, then you also list for your spouse over here in this column. They'll have it's not listed here because on here we're not filing with a spouse, but it'll have it, and you'll have to list the spouse's income as well if you're filing jointly. And then here, number 5, it'll ask, did you receive any other income this year, during this year or the 2 previous calendar years, other than business or employment income? So this would be, you don't list business or employment income here because you already listed on question number 4. So right here in number 5, if you had unemployment, then you just type in unemployment. if you had unemployment this year, during this year, and then you just, how much did you get so far? $3,400. You list that. And if, let's say you have child support, you click this, and you'll have room for another one here, and you have another drop down. So you list pretty much as many as you need to. So you do it for this year, and if you had child support or Social Security or anything other than the business or employment income, you list it here for the last 2 years as well. If not, you just leave it blank, put no. And then so you fill all this information in. Like I said, most of these questions are not applicable to most people, but you still have to read them and make sure. Have you transferred any of your assets to anybody in the last 2 years? Have you rented a storage unit in the last 12 months? Questions like that. Question number 27, it'll ask, have you, within the last 4 years, did you own a business or have any connections to a business? Like if you're if you had a corporation or an LLC, you'd list it there. Even if you never used it, maybe you formed a corporation, you never used it, you still have to list it. And Chapter 7, Statement of Current Monthly Income, you're just about done here with your bankruptcy, so you'll save like $1,500, $2,000 or more by doing this yourself without going through an attorney. So on this form, this is kind of a weird form, kind of unusual. It says Chapter 7, Statement of your Current Monthly Income. But this form is not really asking for your current income, it's asking for your 6-month average, your historical income. You have to list your 6-month average income over the last 6 months. So let's say you're filing bankruptcy in July. You do not list any income on this form for the month that you're filing in. You just take the last full 6 months. Say January through July if you're filing, or January through June if you're filing in July. Take the last full 6 months income. Let's say you made $25,000 in the last 6 months gross, before payroll tax deductions. So you made $25,000, just divide it by 6. Divide it by 6 months and put your 6 months average right here. That's all this is your 6 months average income. That's for debtor 1 and debtor 2. And also if you notice it says non-filing spouse. So if you're married and you're not separated, you have to include your non-filing spouse's income as well, unless you're separated. And it has other income here like business income, rental income, unemployment income, all this other income that you may have had. You include that too. And let's say you had unemployment for 3 months, then you just total it all up and just divide it by 6, which would be kind of low because you only got it for 3 months. If you got a one-time payment from your parents, maybe your parents sent you $5,000 within the last 6 months, you don't really have to list it here because it's talking about all amounts from any source which are regularly paid for your household expenses. And if it's not paid to you on a regular basis, it's like a one-time $5,000 that your parents gave you, but they don't do it every month, then you don't have to list it here because it's not a regular thing. It's not a regular income. So you basically put your 6-month average for those income, whatever you had, and then you select your state, say California here, and the number of people in your household. If you live with like 3 other families, you don't list them. You just list your family, your immediate family, or your wife, your kids, whatever your dependents, and then you hit this next button, and since I believe we selected the box in the beginning, we selected the option to apply to waive the Chapter 7 filing fee. So you're going to see this. You're not going to see this if you did not select this. It'll pop up. It will show only if you selected it. And you just tell the court why you're unable to pay the filing fee in installments instead of getting a waiver. And here's an example here. My income's low. I broke my leg or whatever. So, and then you hit next, and then you can save your information. If you're not done, you want to save it. You can always go back and log back in. All your data will be saved. And then you can, or if you're done, if you're completely done, you just hit the submit button, and it will automatically save it and submit it. And when you submit it, you'll get a message like this saying that we've submitted your information. You'll receive all of your forms, and you can edit your forms when you receive them in your email. You can go in there and just open them up, and they're all fully automated. You can go to a particular form and edit them as much as you want to and print them from there. And then here's the forms that you'll receive. Here's what they'll look like essentially. Here's all of your forms all filled in, ready to go. These are the official forms that all bankruptcy courts in the country use. So all your data will be done here. All the math calculations will be done. summaries. Everything will be filled in automatically. It will have all your debts on here, and it will also automatically create an alphabetical creditor matrix right here, which is basically an alphabetical mailing list that your bankruptcy court will use to mail to all of, notice of your bankruptcy to all your creditors. So basically, you just print these forms out, you sign them in about 5 or 6 places, and then you take them or mail them to your local bankruptcy court. Every bankruptcy court has a website, and they have their local rules, they have their address, all that information there. So you take them, you just hand them to the bankruptcy court clerk or mail them in, and they'll file your bankruptcy. It'll be effective immediately. They'll give you a bankruptcy case number immediately, and the moment that you file, there's an automatic stay that goes into effect. It's kind of like a restraining order. And the reason they call it an automatic stay is because it's automatic. You don't need a judge to, sign an order or anything. It's just whenever you file bankruptcy, by law, automatically that automatic stay goes into effect, that restraining order that prohibits your creditors from contacting you. Nobody can call you, nobody can sue you, nobody can send you any more bills in the mail, nobody can repossess your car, nobody can foreclose on your house. You can file a bankruptcy 1 minute before a foreclosure sale, it'll stop the sale. That's how quick it goes into effect. Any creditor who contacts you or tries to collect a debt from you after they have knowledge of your bankruptcy, even if you just call them and tell them, I filed bankruptcy, and give them the case number, they can be held in contempt if they violate that, if they take any collection activity against you. Court hearings will be canceled normally, unless it's like for child support or something like that, or family support. Depositions, court hearings, things like that. Everything pretty much has to stop. And about a month later, you have to go down and meet with a bankruptcy trustee. A bankruptcy trustee is basically just a private attorney, usually a private bankruptcy attorney who signs up to be a trustee. And they get, I don't know what it is now, it may have gone up, but it used to be $60 statutory fee for serving as trustee. So, for serving as a bankruptcy trustee, they get $60, maybe a bowl of soup or something, and not a whole lot. And they may get commissions too if they're able to recover some assets, for your unsecured creditors. But usually, you get to keep all your stuff, all your assets. You keep them, and so sometimes trustees that's all they make is that statutory fee. So basically, you have to go there. You bring a photo ID and a social security card, or something verifying your social security number. And your trustee may want a couple other things. And you also will need a photocopy of your most recently filed federal income tax refund that you have to give to the trustee. That does not get filed with the court. And you will also need photocopies of your last 60 days of pay stubs. Any pay stubs, what they call payment advices, showing how much you made and your payroll deductions for the last 60 days prior to your bankruptcy filing date. Sometimes the pay stubs get filed with your court. Sometimes the court has a local rule posted on their website that says don't file the pay stubs with the court, give them to your trustee. And so you just ask the court, or just better look on your court's website under local rules and see, do you give the pay stubs to the court, or do you give them to your trustee later on, once you find out who your trustee is that's assigned to your case. And so you will need the federal income tax return, the complete copy, not just 1 or 2 pages, and you have to give that to your bankruptcy trustee, and the trustee must receive that tax return no later than 7 days prior to your meeting with the trustee. The meeting with the trustee is called a meeting of creditors. It's also known as a 341A meeting, same thing. But on a consumer case, your creditors virtually never show up. They can if they want to, but nobody hardly ever does. So basically, when you go to your meeting, it'll just be you and the trustee. You show your ID. The trustee may ask you a couple of questions, and then you're usually in and out within about 3 to 5 minutes. It's pretty quick. And then you leave, and you'll receive your discharge of all your debts, an order discharging all your debts, says all your debts are forgiven, except for the ones that you've reaffirmed or that are not dischargeable, like certain taxes or child support. But you'll get that discharge order, that final discharge order, in about 60 to 70 days after your meeting. You'll get it in the mail. And that's pretty much the end of your bankruptcy. And the court will mail out a notice of your bankruptcy to all your creditors. So, if you have any creditors who are calling you or bothering you or garnishing wages, you can, file a motion in the court, contact the court and have them held in contempt of court, or ask the court to hold them in contempt of court and punish them for violating the automatic stay. And if you have a wage garnishment or something, when you file bankruptcy, the court will give you what's called a notice of bankruptcy case filing, and you just give that to your payroll department, and that will usually stop the garnishment immediately. Some payroll departments don't understand what they're supposed to do when somebody files bankruptcy. So you should also ask the creditor or the creditor's attorney, whoever's doing the garnishment, give them a copy of your bankruptcy, or just call them or fax or email them a copy of your notice of bankruptcy case filing and ask them to release the garnishment. And they are required by law to promptly release the garnishment, to send a release to your employer. Otherwise, they can be held in contempt of court. And that's it.